Hello, Doggie People. I hope you all are doing well. I got my little man Hermes here today, but he's actually not going to be the subject of our video today. He's just here to be cute and say hi. I was emailed recently by someone who has rescued a 2-year-old Shiba from a shelter. So first off, congrats on the new puppy. I know they're 2 years old. I still call every dog a puppy, but congrats on the new Shiba. Thank you for saving from the shelter. That's a very common behavior. That's a very common story that I hear personally about how a lot of Shibas, once they get to a certain, I'm playing with Hermes with socks, I don't mind. Once Shibas get to a certain age, people get them because they're cute, they're the Doge dog, they're, whatever, it's a meme, and they realize that, oh, I can't really handle this dog. They're stubborn, or they're aggressive, or they're mean, when really they're just very smart and they demand respect. And so they end up in the shelter within, after about 9 or 10 months, when that cuteness wears off, which I think they're always cute. And they end up in a shelter, which is, for no fault of their own, which is unfortunate. So thank you for adopting. And this person is talking about the first part of our video today, part 1. It's going to be a couple of videos. To answer a few questions for you is I'm going to show you how I taught my Shiba to leave things alone. How I taught him specifically to not go for items on the ground, specifically food items. This Shiba, I believe, much like my boy Adonis here, likes to go after bits of paper, chewing on notebooks, bits of paper, bits of plastic, picking things up and then playing keep away from their owner. And so the owner is concerned about always doing the bait and switch. Are we rewarding the dog for taking something and running away because they know we're going to trade it for something of greater value? And you're valid in the way that you feel and you think about that, which it can. I mean, Shibas and any dog are very smart, but Shibas particularly are very smart in outsmarting their humans. So first, I'm just going to talk about a couple of things that you can do to prevent this from happening and prevent the behavior, and then we'll get into showing you how I taught my little boy. So first off, prevention is key. We want to prevent our Shiba, or any dog, even a ferret, Hermes has now run away, we want to prevent them from being able to practice the behavior that we don't want them to practice. So say our Shiba likes to go after a sock, then we should just pick up the socks and put them out of reach of them. If you have books or paper or trash cans or things around your house, bits of stuffing and things, throw them away, pick them up. If you have books and whatnot, either block them off. If you have them in a bookcase, put some kind of a block there, put them in a storage bin, pick them up, put them elsewhere, reorganize. If you can't do that, or you don't want to reorganize your entire house, which I totally understand, then try to control the areas where your Shiba does go. If you can have them in a puppy pen or a play pen, or just kind of a little baby gate somewhere in certain rooms, or have them on leash and tethered to you, or walking around, if you're walking around the house and you can't keep a close eye on them, you don't have a pen for them, have them on leash and have them walk with you. You can practice good loose leash skills. And in between the periods where they are kept away from the items, the forbidden items, then you can also practice with them to teach them to leave these items alone and prevent that behavior from getting better, stronger, reinforcing. We're strengthening that behavior, whatever you want to call it. They are practicing the behavior of not chewing on books, plastic, getting in the trash, eating chicken bones, whatnot. They are getting better at staying calm, staying around you, listening to you when you ask them to do a certain behavior. So we want to take time to practice the behaviors that we want our dog to exhibit. So we can start practicing leave it inside the house first, and then when we're outside of the house, that'll be part 2 of this video, where it's going to be a little bit more challenging. First, we want to start indoors. I know that you're a little bit nervous about using food, but trust me, right now, food with a food-motivated Shiba is going to be your best friend. Don't worry about getting rid of the reward too quickly, because then that's where you run into problems. So for now, just use a high-value reward. It can even be the kibble, it can be whatever. We just really want to strengthen this behavior. And then over time, we can switch to toys or a real-life reward, something else that your Shiba finds rewarding. Remember, the dog always decides what is rewarding, not us. Some people may think that scratching is enough. Some people may think that if you have a tug toy or something else, we want to switch it up so we don't have to use food. But in the end, our dogs get to choose what is rewarding. In the beginning, we're going to start with something that's less valuable than your reward. So we're going to have a treat. and then maybe a piece of your dog's regular kibble, cardboard tubing from like a paper towel roll, or plastic Tupperware. I mean, whatever it is that your dog finds. I guess that would be kind of interesting, the plastic Tupperware, but you could have an empty bowl, something that your dog really doesn't care about. Maybe it's a sock, or maybe it's just a piece of cardboard, or something that's your dog doesn't really necessarily care too much about. And that's where we're going to start, because we want to make it easy for them to succeed. So we can start with our little piece of cardboard, whatever, and then a really high value treat. So hopefully you can see Adonis here. I got my good boy here. I'm going to be using a clicker. You don't have to use a clicker. You can use a conditioned word. The clicker is just easier to mark the behavior. So he's just sitting here. He just kind of woke up, so he's a little sleepy and a little slow. But that's usually just him anyway. So say you would be practicing with something less than appetizing, for your Shiba, and you'd be rewarding with a treat. I have pepperoni here, the crack for dogs. So this is just what we're going to be using, because he's a little more advanced. But I know. So now we have Hermes here, which is going to be a good boy. It's going to be a distraction. This is going to be a little bit of advanced work. But I can still reward him for not going after Hermes for that treat. So say we have a treat in our hand. Something our dog doesn't necessarily care about getting. Now, he does, good boy. But if they do go for it, they can sniff it at first. If you're using a piece of food first, a piece of their kibble, and they want to go sniff, then you just pull it away, show it again, wait just a half a second for him to not go for it, and then reward with a different treat. Kind of hard to control and talk at the same time, so I'm going to try and do my best. So say we show him the piece of food. He doesn't have to sit, but this is just kind of like where I start with it. Good. And I don't say anything at first. I just show him this little reward, and you're going to have a high value, or you're going to have a high rate of reinforcement as well. So he can look at it. He doesn't even try to go for it, and I'm going to mark him reward. He looks away. I'm not asking him to look away. He just kind of does that automatically. Good. More treats here. You can see this lovely pairing here from this little one. Good boy. So again, we show it. So I reset everything. I waited a little while. I got a treat out, so he wanted to pop up. That's okay. I just reset him. Again, I'm not saying anything to him, so this is a little more difficult. He knows the word. We're starting from scratch. But if he didn't know anything, if he didn't know the word, I wouldn't tell it to him anyway. I would still just do the same behavior of moving it away. Good boy. Good. Okay, so once we can have the treat, we can, say over here, and your dog doesn't even go for it, whether it's a treat or cardboard, whatever it is, then you can move it a little bit closer. Good man. If they want to go for it, then you just pull it up and then retry. And the point is that we want it to be far enough away that they don't try to go for it over and over again. If it was right here, and this is the first time I'm trying this, and I keep having to do this, it's going to be a little difficult and frustrating for the dog, right? He's just like, he's like, I don't know what you're doing, Mom. Good boy. So we gotta get Hermes over here so Adonis doesn't correct him. Okay, so once your dog can leave it alone, over here, then you move it a little bit closer. Again, I reset because I got it from my pocket, no worries. Then we can set it here, and when you can get a little closer to your dog, again, I get the behavior down before I give him the word. Once they're able to do this, and you can have it right in front of them, and he doesn't try to go for it, I'm rewarding him about every, I don't know, maybe 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. Good. Okay, now I can start giving him the verbal. Good boy. Good boy. And this is also with Hermes right here. And having this, this is a draw. This treat is drawing the two predators together. This is where the leave it can come in handy because I don't want him to go after Hermes. So then I can start saying leave it because I know he's going to do it with the behavior. So then I start pairing it with the word leave it. And I'm also adding a couple more seconds. So I'm kind of speeding this along. But normally what you would want to do is just start from here. You slowly move over here. Then you can start adding the verbal cue. Leave it. Good. Good boy. Then you can go higher. You can go lower until you're on the ground. Good boy. You didn't even try to go for it. Give Hermes a little piece. You can hear. Good boy. And I can move it a little bit lower. You can't really see it, but I'll put it here on my knee. Good. He doesn't go for it. Continues to not go for it. So you see when I moved it here, my rate of reinforcement went up. Treats in that pocket. I got some more. Good boy. Oh, sorry, I dropped that one for you in a minute. And I can start, good boy, resetting. Again, more on my knee. It's not quite below him. It's not next to him on his little leg, but this is the next step. We can even move these to right in front of him. I'll put one there. Good boy. Mark and reward and pick up this treat because I don't want him to get the one that I'm telling him to leave. So now I can take it, I can put it down again. If he tries to go for it, I keep my hand right there so I can cover it really quickly if I need to. He still doesn't go for it. Good. So even if he's sitting there looking at it and he's not going for it, I reward him for being able to look at it and not go for it. That's just me. You can, if you want them to be looking at you and making eye contact, you can. I like to work in little steps. So again, we're going to have so you guys can see, I'm going to have it on my knee right here. Good boy. And you just practice. Again, if you were to go for it, if you were to try to sniff it, then I would just cover it with my hand real quick until he moves away. I can mark and reward again. Add another one there. Good boy. And once this behavior is down, then you can start adding the verbal here. So every time you move it to the ground or something else, you try something new, get the behavior first, then you can add the verbal cue. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. Good man. Okay. So then I can, okay. So I really have to, he's like, should I get it or not? He's not really sure. So I really have to, don't eat that fuzzy. Don't eat that fuzzy. Very hairy. So he wasn't sure if he could really get it. So that means that if you really have to entice them to get it, then you're doing pretty well. So after you can do that, when you have your treat that can be stationary and you can work your way down onto the ground in between their paws and they can leave it, then you want to start working on being able to stand up while it's in between their paws. Be ready to have you're going to go maybe to your knees, then maybe a little bit to like crouching, and make sure you have your hand there close by so you can still stop them from grabbing it if you need to. Again, we don't want to practice with anything that's going to be detrimental to our pet and harm them if they should get to it. If he got to the treat, okay, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a treat. So if it's like something, really dangerous or like a piece of tissue paper or something, we don't want them to eat that. So we practice with something that's safe and work our way up to that. Once we have them stationary, then we can start adding multiples where we have them, on my knee here, or you can move it over here, or you can have it, on the ground here, one here, here, and here. You can start, dropping them, like a little pile of them. Adonis is getting water, so I'm not at risk of him coming after these, but you want to start adding a little bit of motion to it because a treat that's stationary is different from a treat that has motion to it, that rolls. And so that's going to get them a little more excited. It's going to get their prey drive going. So we have to proof them for that as well. So when your dog can leave it alone when it's stationary, then you can very lightly start dropping it that far. We don't want to be, really slamming it down or sliding, quick movement right away. We want to build our way up to that. This is just another way to proof your dog to be able to leave something alone that moves. And then you can have, 1, 2, 3 treats drop. You can drop, throw them up and make it like a party. You can even lay them around your dog who's in a sit stay. You can walk away and you create that distance. Again, doing this with safe items, that way if they do then get to the item, then we say, okay, we need to go back and really work on that. And then you can start transferring from, a basic treat to a tasty treat, or to an object, maybe a shoe, if your dog goes after a shoe, or a sock, or a piece of paper or a book. Then you can start practicing that, where again you want to be able to take it away, start small and grow big. You want to be able to take it away before your Shiba has a time to go after it. If they get it, then we just do the little trade thing where we may use a treat, we call them to us, we toss the treat away from ourselves, they let go of the book or whatever it is to go after the treat. Then we pick up the book and then we say, okay, let's try again with this, but we're going to set it up where we have a controlled environment. Maybe we'll have our Shiba on leash so they can't run away with it. Maybe we won't get it as close to them so they can bite it, and take a hold of it. Say if we have a sock and we're holding it this close to them, they're able to go and grab it. And so we don't want them to practice that. So then you can build your way up to more and more tasty treats. I can do the same thing with Adonis with a piece of steak. I'd still reward with a piece of pepperoni, or I can have, show him a piece of steak, tell him to leave it, and then give him another piece of steak from another hand. it could be right in front of him, because we've taken the time to build up to that. I don't expect it to be done day 1 or day 2 or day 5. He's very smart. When I'm doing it right, he does it right. We learn very quickly. Work with your dog, not against them, no matter what age they are. Depending on the age, it may just be the number of years that they've been reinforced for being able to not follow through with the leave it. So just be patient, take your time. So practice this behavior indoors several times a day if you want to keep the lessons very, very short, until your Shiba is able to leave things alone, when you can roll them by them and the dog is stationary and the items are moving. The next step would be having the items stationary and your dog moving past. That's going to be a little more difficult because as they're walking, they want to kind of grab it and do a little drive-by. So that will be in part 2, as well as what to do if you don't have treats on you when you're out in the real world. Adonis came back for some goodies so he can have all these treats because he's spoiled. So you asked about if it's okay to have a collar on 24/7 and then only ever walk your dog in a harness. And that's totally fine. That's what I do with Adonis. I mean, you can tell he's naked. He's usually always naked all the time, meaning there's no collar. I just call him naked that way. Anymore nowadays, he doesn't bolt out the door, so there's really no need for him to have a collar until we're going for a walk. And even then, I put his collar on with his tags or his GPS tracker because I'm a helicopter parent. And he only ever walks in his harness. Martingales are awesome for dogs that like to slip out of their collars. They're awesome for just identification tags only. I think that's the main purpose of a collar in general that goes around the neck, is just to hold identification tags. That's fine. You can have that on your dog all the time. Make sure it's just properly fit, where you can slide 2 fingers in, I think, this way, like this way away from the neck. Not flat, but like this way. And then you can put your dog in a harness and just walk your Shiba that way. I'll be sure to look up the other questions that you asked in your email, so that way I can answer them in part 2. And what we're going to be covering in part 2 again is real world leave it, if you don't have treats and you're not prepared, as well as walking past with your dog, walking past stationary food, which is something that even Adonis isn't too great with, not because of him, but because of me. I haven't really worked with him. So it'll be real life training that we can show you, and I'll show you kind of how we handle that. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Sorry for all the rambling. I've tried to do this video a couple of times and the audio always messes up. So I'm filming on my phone this time instead of my fancy camera and microphone and all that nonsense. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it so very much. I hope I was able to help you with the first stages of the Leave It cue, and stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. Until then, stay positive.